believer in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
We have gotten some incredible reaction to the last two episodes of the Paracast, where we were celebrating our 10th anniversary. Of course, we had 2 weeks ago a roundtable featuring people who had once been guest co-hosts of the show, such as Greg Bishop and Paul Kimball. We had Goggs Mackay. Last week we had a listener roundtable with Sue and with Ufology and with Stoneheart. And both, by the way, carried over to our After the Paracast podcast, which is part of the Paracast Plus. And I'll tell you all about that later. In any case, Chris, I don't know if you know about this. I got a letter from John Greenwald of the Black Vault, and he wasn't happy about something I said on the show. Now, maybe we should just add him to the list because I get this from time to time. But in this case, it was about the brief time in which they posted the Project Blue Book files, and ended up being something that was, I guess, linked from another site or acquired from another site. Now, there have been in the past Project Blue Book posts online, so you can go online and see all the files that have been released publicly. But John felt, in this case, that what he had access to had a much better, more modern way of searching the data, which is fine. And some of us felt, though, that since we already had Project Blue Book online, maybe he was doing a little grandstanding, and I ragged on him for that. Maybe he should have emphasized in the stories that were quoted about him that this is not something new, it's just a better way of posting the Project Blue Book files. Well, he sent me a link to his original Facebook message on the subject. And yes, indeed, he pointed out that Project Blue Book files have previously been available, and he was only trying to do it in a better way. But evidently the media, in quoting him, and we all know how that works, Chris, the media didn't mention that troubling fact that this was not something original, but simply a better way to put the things up. What's your position on that, Chris?
Well, I think this all occurred on the show with Alejandro. I wasn't on that show, unfortunately. You know, I think we owe it to people like John, who's I'm a huge fan of his. He's one of the few young people in the field. When I say young, I mean people below 40 years old. I think he just turned 30. He's been at this since he was 14. He is, again, I can't say enough how much I admire the just incredible amount of work that he's done. He's already got over 1 million documents, FOIA documents online at the Black Vault. I think it's a wonderful resource for anybody who wants to get into researching and digging into this subject and find out from his, get his side of things instead of assuming that he's grandstanding. I could see why, based on the newspaper coverage, why anyone would think that. But again, just to set the record straight, I think it's a good journalistic practice to contact whomever it is that there might be some sort of question about. So I don't think he was grandstanding. He sent me a long email explaining exactly what the situation was, and I understand his indignation. And I think he overreacted a little bit, but still he did express his indignation at not being contacted and asked directly. So I think that's a lesson to be learned.
Well, part of it is that I think his explanation on the Black Vault site was not as clear as it could have been.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a large part of it because it was not questioning why we didn't contact him. It was looking at the site. It wasn't altogether clear what the background was. And I think that didn't help. And maybe he should have been a little more careful. This is the past. Yeah. And let's hope they do find a better way. I mean, yes, if you Google Project Blue Book files, you'll find them. But a lot of these databases are really old. Right. And this is a problem, for example, we have with the National UFO Reporting Center, where he's got a huge amount of information there, but he's using a 1992 database search engine.
Right.
And nowadays, you put up online search engines. You could link to Google search, which is what we do on my tech site, technightowl.com. There are so many different ways to search for information. Our message forums have a very advanced search engine. And so these things need to be modernized.
Yeah.
so that we can really get the information we want, because it really makes it difficult.
That's one of the good things about his site, is it is very searchable and is very, very well set up.
We're going back to John Greenwald's site. We're not talking again about Peter Davenport's site. But no. John is a young guy who's trying to make the information as accessible as possible. And he's gotten a lot of these Freedom of Information documents, which is very good. And by the way, he's got an ally here in the name of John Podesta, who's the head of Hillary Clinton's campaign. And he's been saying over and over again, and this is not something just for the campaign, he wants as much information released as possible from the government archives on UFOs. And Clinton, actually, I read her statement, and I thought she was just saying something to placate a reporter or a voter. But she seemed pretty serious about the subject. In fact, I did an editorial on it for the Paracast newsletter. Of course, if she's elected president, and we don't have President Trump or President Cruz or something, whether anything will come of it, I'm very doubtful.
Yeah, I am too. Although it is known that she did meet with Lawrence Rockefeller in Jackson Hole, I think it was 95, and she was holding a very interesting book titled Are We Alone? So, there is, like Carter, like, Clinton, it's everybody don't hold your breath. It's pretty doubtful that anything is going to happen. And I will restate my position. I think most of this information is held in the private sector away from FOIA requests and prying eyes. So I think it's a real long shot.
And by the way, it's probably not on Hillary Clinton's private email server.
Well,
or maybe it's the ones that she deleted. Remember, she deleted the private emails before giving the government access, which is her privilege. But so that wasn't it. And by the way, just a final comment about the email controversy. Do you know that when Colin Powell was Secretary of State, he used an AOL account?
Right.
Now, where does anyone in their right mind believe that AOL is more secure than somebody's private email server? But let's just not do that. Let's get started with our guest. Chris, could you tell us about our guest? Because this is solid research, nuts and bolts ufology.
Well, I'm really happy that finally we have Phyllis Budinger on the show. I've been wanting to talk with Phyllis for many years, where our paths have not really crossed until recently. I finally got a chance to meet her. She has been working courageously behind the scenes for decades as an analytical chemist. She's been involved in testing some pretty notorious materials that have been, I guess, alleged to have some sort of potential connection to the UFO phenomenon, including the Delphos case, where we had a ring of fluorescing material that fluoresced quite a number of hours after the actual landing event in Delphos, Kansas. She was able to get a sample and test that. She worked with Nancy Talbott on the interesting claim by Robert Vanderboker about the piles of magnesium in these crop circles in Holland, a case that I really would like to talk to her about for my own personal interest in the unexplained livestock death phenomenon. She determined that pure hemoglobin was found on an animal that was investigated in Oregon, and the list goes on. And Phyllis has been someone, an unsung hero. She's not tried to create a cult of personality around herself. She's got the credentials and the work history of a true professional chemist. To have scientists like Phyllis involved in actually testing and analyzing materials that are alleged to be artifacts and material left behind by craft, I think is very, very important. And she's one of the few people that have actually gotten involved. So welcome to the show, Phyllis.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
We'll talk to Phyllis Budinger in our next segment with Gene and Chris. Of course, you're in
the Paracast.
I know that a lot of our listeners are interested in UFOs, the issue of giant skeletons found in America, paranormal investigations, and what the top researchers think about such topics. One online magazine has been presenting such unusual information since 1985. It is Alternate Perceptions Magazine at apmagazine.info. Use their search function to find articles on just about every topic imaginable. That's apmagazine.info. Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
This is an important message to all listeners. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes to the IRS, the tax pros at OIC Tax want to help you. OIC Tax is dedicated to helping taxpayers just like you with their IRS problems.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS. I was working long hours and weekends just to make ends meet. To make matters worse, the IRS was about to garnish my wages, and I needed to file several years of back tax returns. Then I called the tax professionals at OIC Tax. They stopped the IRS from garnishing my wages. They even placed my account into the IRS's financial hardship program, so I don't have to make any payments to the IRS. That's right, no payments to the IRS while I'm in this program.
Call OIC Tax today to see if you qualify for the IRS's hardship program. Call 800-272-9128. Call now and mention you heard this radio commercial and receive 10% off their already low fees. 800-272-9128. That number, 800-272-9128. Call now, 800-272-9128.
Cancer categorizes over 100 diseases. Though we do not diagnose, treat, or cure cancer, GCN team is offering the Clemson University study where there was up to a 95% reduction in cancerous cells when exposed to a plant-derived mineral supplement. If you or a loved one are searching for answers to this horrifying disease, come to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. We'll email you a copy for free. That's 877-878-4203.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
We have Phyllis Budinger, who was in 2013 MUFON's Ufologist of the Year. And let's talk about her background. She has really an extensive background as a scientist. And then we'll get into some of the case histories that Chris is interested about. Phyllis, Ufologist of the Year, that's like getting an Oscar, isn't it?
Yeah, I was quite honored for that. I was surprised. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it there to get the award, but I certainly acknowledged the board of directors of MUFON, and I felt good about that.
Can you tell us about your scientific background and how that ultimately led to you getting interested in UFOs?
Okay, I'm a native Ohioan, and I've got a couple degrees in chemistry, a bachelor's and a master's. And I joined a petroleum company on graduation of getting the master's. And I went up through the ranks till I became a rank of research scientist, the title. And I had 35 years there. And what I did was I headed a group in the end specializing in a discipline called spectroscopy. And most of my industrial experience had been devoted to some facet of troubleshooting and problem solving for the businesses of this petroleum company. And it was not routine type analysis. While I had an experience in using spectroscopic techniques for those who have a scientific background, it was infrared and nuclear magnetic resonance, I also had a working knowledge of most other analytical techniques. It was, to me, that they would bring the problems and I would get the data and put it in front of me and put the puzzle together to solve the problem. And all this time, I had a lifelong interest in the mystery of the UFO phenomenon. I had contemplated and pretty much decided that I wanted to have a small laboratory just to look at the physical traces of anything related to the UFO event. For instance, I had read a lot of things, and I've never seen an analysis that I deemed was really very good at identifying things. Especially, I think what really interested me was the angel hair phenomenon. And I says, why didn't they run an infrared spectrum? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And I said, I can do that. And so anyhow, it was a reason I wanted to get a good analysis on these materials. It was not to prove UFOs exist, because I think there's a lot of ample evidence for this with photographs, but I wanted to find out who is piloting these craft, and I wanted to find out something about them and the craft. So that's what got me into it. You wonder why was I so interested in UFOs? It's because I've seen them on a few occasions. So, that will spike your interest immediately when you see something unknown and can't explain. So anyhow, I'm trying to find out the why and how.
Well, I'd like to focus just briefly here on those sightings. So you've seen UFOs, obviously more than once, but maybe you have one case that seems to be the one that influenced you the most, or maybe there's more than one, but maybe you can tell us about it.
Well, of course, you're impressionable when you're a kid, and I had to be, I can't remember the age, it was around 10 to 12 years old when I came out of the neighbor's house with my parents. And about, I would guess the distance was, I would say 500 feet, and maybe up 300, 400 feet up, I saw a craft with, it looked like two inverted pie plates. And I saw this, and it was gray in color. And as soon as I spotted, I was looking at it, and it boom, disappeared, blinked out. And that got my attention. And then there were other sightings after that. The second time that was impressive was in the mid-1990s when I was sitting in a restaurant. It was a beautiful, clear sky. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning, not a cloud. And I saw a disc going across the sky at about as fast as a jet. It was going perfectly straight, and then all of a sudden, it blinked out. And when it blinked out, it's like you looked at a light bulb and you see the negative impression of it, and it sort of bounced around and it disappeared. It was that was the other ones were iffy. I'm sure that I think they were UFOs, but they were not that. They were a very far distance with multicolored lights on them and hovering. So that's about the type of things I saw, and quite inspired me to do what I'm doing.
Now, did you come to any conclusions about what was causing these things, or did you just accept it as something that's really weird?
of course, I had been reading a lot over the years. I was, you might call it, armchair ufologist. I did not actively participate in the field at that time, but I had read quite a bit, and there was, I was pretty convinced that these were of another intelligence. What it is, I didn't know, but I knew it was somebody either visiting here or coming here dimensionally. And I became more convinced as I got actively involved, talking to people, anything from the military to all people of all walks of life. And even my doctor saw one close up. So, you know, it was when you have that many witnesses, and when people heard of my interest, they would come up to me and tell me their experiences, and there were experiences in my own family where my aunt saw one land, and my nephew saw one that blinked out.
The case involving a landing, and we have about a minute left with this segment, so we may want to pursue that. Can you briefly tell us about it?
My aunt saw one. She went to bed at night, and all of a sudden, the whole bedroom lit up, and she lived in a rural area. They had about 40, 50 acres of land, and she saw this object, got up, saw this object just slowly land behind the woods and behind the trees and the distance away. And she didn't say anything until the next morning, and she told my uncle about it, and he did go out there, but I don't think he found anything. And this was years and years ago, so he didn't find anything. So, but she had seen something. So that's about all I know about it. And
this was also in Ohio?
Yes, This is, in Ohio, northeast Ohio.
Let's do our break now. We've got a lot more to talk about with Phyllis Budinger. She was MUFON's 2013 Ufologist of the Year. Of course, I never win awards. I actually won one journalism award one time. I don't want to boast about it because, it was just a little thing and I didn't get anything more than an email about it. In any case, with Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business, so make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
Planning to buy food storage? Wait a minute. Many companies try to confuse you with the number of servings they sell. It's not about the number of servings, it's about the number of calories. In emergencies, calories mean survival. Go to ReadySupplyFoods.com for a comparison of leading companies. Ready Supply Foods sells the most calories per dollar of any company. Our 23 entrees and breakfasts are delicious and full of nutritious calories. The new leader in value and quality. Go to ReadySupplyFoods.com today.
Are you tired of the cold this winter? Are you prepared for the next blizzard or snowstorm? What will you do when the power and heat go off? That could be our future. Fortress Clothing's Bug Out Bag with our head-to-toe solution is your one-step answer to survival in the cold. It doesn't expire, it doesn't go bad, it's lightweight and mobile, and it doesn't just sit on the shelf waiting for an emergency. You can use Fortress today. Be warm and comfortable if you or your family work in the cold. Be warm and comfortable while you play, hunt, fish, camp, ski, paraglide, go sledding with the family, or just shovel the walks. You will never be cold again. FortressClothing.com is the answer. Your emergency preparedness solution to the cold. Your solution to working or playing in the cold. Visit us at FortressClothing.com and enter RADIO. Buy now and receive your 20% off discount. You will never be cold again. FortressClothing.com. It could save your life one day.
This is Sharon Hunt. Before using Heart and Body Extract, my energy level was very, very low. I could only walk a few feet and then would have to sit down. I was tired and lethargic. But after taking Heart and Body Extract, my energy level has improved greatly, and I can now walk longer distances without getting tired so fast. Thank you, Heart and Body Extract.
Learn the secrets of an effective, natural, 100% organic nutritional supplement for a healthy heart and circulation at hbextract.com.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So, Chris, have you ever won an award for anything?
Well, yeah, actually I have. In 2012, I co-produced a compilation film called It Could Happen Tomorrow, which distilled about 25 hours of dialogues between ufologists on disclosure down to a 75-minute piece. And we won the International UFO Congress EB Awards for Best Feature Film and the People's Choice Award. So I've got 2 alien Oscars that I keep on the lower shelf facing the wall because they kind of creep me out.
Well, hey, it's like an Oscar. It's as close as you can get in this field. Phyllis Budinger is with us, and we were talking to her about her background in investigating UFO cases. Yeah. Now, say I'm coming into this as a skeptic, and I say, Phyllis, if you had one case to present with evidence that would demonstrate once and for all something weird is really going on, something that you've personally investigated, what case would you talk about?
Well, I think some of the highly visible cases, the Delphos, Kansas case, the Betty Hill dress, and those are the most well-known cases, and I'm convinced something happened. Now, I cannot prove anything. I can't prove it's alien, but the substances that I found shouldn't have been there. I find things that shouldn't be there, and there's no explanation for why they should be there. And it's bizarre. It's something, I know something bizarre has happened, and why is that? Why did this happen? And why is this there? And so anyhow, those 2 cases stand out. There's another case that happened in Poland that has me perplexed. That is an interesting one. It came through BLT research, but it's a case where a UFO landed and deposited vitrified rock. And this vitrified rock, it was observed by a old grandmother. This is a rural area in Poland, and she happened to be awake at night, and she was in her bedroom. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and she saw this red object slowly, very slowly descend way at the end of the field. She told her family about it. She lived with her son and his family the next morning, And her teenage grandson went back there to check it out, and he saw flattened grass, and he saw in a circle, an elliptical circle, these stones. So he took one stone back to the farmhouse, and he went with a wheelbarrow the next day to get the stones, and they were gone. And nobody knew about them. They hadn't told anybody. And so they were completely gone. But this stone, sort of reminiscent of the Delphos effect, this stone glowed for 6 months.
Wow.
And I happened to look at that with a good friend of mine. He's the late Nick Ryder, who has done a lot of work in the UFO field, too. And it was found to be vitrified soil. And it was not from that area. It was from some other area because we looked at the control soils from that land. You know, I have no explanation. It's perplexing. Why would vitrified soil be put there and then disappear and be deposited, and obviously deposited from somewhere else? So,
were you able to determine what was the cause of the fluorescing or glowing? I
have speculations and theories, just like I think it was the same effect that caused the glowing of the Delphos ring. These craft apparently have a field around them, an ionizing field. People smell ozone. Well, that's because it's probably causing oxygen in the air to form ozone. Some claim nitrates are around. Therefore, it also would cause the material, like in Delphos, that was being deposited to probably fluoresce or chemiluminesce for a day or so. And I think the same effect happened with these rocks, that they were exposed to this field and that they glowed or chemiluminesced for quite a while. So that's my speculation.
Right. Why don't we see more of that in the literature? We have quite a number of, alleged landing cases from all over the world from the 40s on. Of course, they've been, I think, they're not landing as much apparently as they used to, but we only have a number of cases where fluorescing material has been observed and left behind. The Delphos case and the case in Poland that you mentioned are notable ones, but are there any other cases?
Not that I know of. The only other ones that I know of is that it's not chemiluminescing, but it's, like I mentioned, is the formation of ozone, or people. There's been a number of people claim that they have smelled ozone in the air if they've been anywhere near these things. So I think it's all the field on this craft is causing this. So that's my speculation.
Well, we have about 3 minutes for the segment, but let me ask you kind of an outsider question here. Any possibility the craft that's putting forth this effect might actually be some kind of test aircraft instead of something that may have a possible alien origin?
Well, that's a pure speculation. I'm not going to rule it out, but I think these craft have been seen for a long time, and maybe some are. I don't think Delphos was. Yeah. And
well, when we come back, let's go ahead and give some of our newer listeners who may not be familiar with the Delphos case a thumbnail sketch of it, and then describe what you did to somehow almost magically obtain one of the few rare samples that existed that were gathered from the case. It's an interesting story how you got that particular sample. But let's go ahead and give our new listeners a better understanding of the case.
Let's do this here. We have about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Phyllis, why don't you start with a brief on the Delphos, Kansas case, and then we can explore it further in our next segment. And if you go on for about 2 minutes or so, I think it'll work fine. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, probably should explain the case. I can set the stage. It's in Delphos, Kansas, which is a very small population. Back then, it's around 370. And it happened on November 2nd, 1971, in the evening, about 7. It was a full moon and a clear sky, and a teenager, 16-year-old Ron Johnson, was tending to his sheep, and his mom had just called him in for dinner, and suddenly he heard a sound like an old washing machine which vibrates, and about 25 yards away, he saw a mushroom-shaped object which was hovering 2 to 5 feet from the ground, roughly 9 feet in diameter and 10 feet high, with a mass of multicolored lights covering its surface. And it seemed to be depositing a shimmering material. And the UFO remained several minutes. Then the glow of the base of the object, at the base, it brightened and enlarged. And then it departed with a real high-pitched sound. And the sound was like a jet aircraft. He was blinded for several minutes, and when his sight came back, he saw the UFO departing and was going to the south. He was very frightened. He got his parents and brought him out, and they all three witnessed it departing.
Okay, we will continue with the 1971 Delphos, Kansas UFO landing and the aftermath, which is just fascinating. Listeners, I'm going to urge you to take a peek at plus.theparacast.com. That is a real internet address, plus.theparacast.com, to learn more about our premium package and about our exclusive After the Paracast podcast. Phyllis Budinger will be back on the other side with Gene and Chris. You're in the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Conspiracy Journal is your #1 source for the hidden world of the weird and strange. We bring you thought-provoking and controversial material for free-thinking individuals who are seeking what is really going on in our world today. Some of this material may adversely affect you. Other pieces are meant to enlighten. Either way, be prepared to be intrigued by such things as the reality of UFOs, ghosts, strange creatures from time and space, hidden conspiracies, time travel, Nikola Tesla, suppressed technology, and a whole lot more. You can find out more by visiting our website at conspiracyjournal.com. There you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter sent directly to your email address. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't pick on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
My dad was 59 when he collapsed from a heart attack late last year. Just this past August was when we spread his ashes on the St. Croix River. I loved my dad, but boy was he stubborn. He hadn't been to the doctor in over 25 years. His excuse? He simply couldn't afford it. He wasn't a rich man by any means. At less than $107 per month, libertyoncall.org would have been the perfect alternative for my father. Don't wait. Go to libertyoncall.org right now, for not just your sake, but for the sake of your loved ones. Again, that's libertyoncall.org.
I'm Jesse Gonzalez, Vice President at Kmart. Did you know that premature birth is the #1 killer of babies in the United States, or that survivors can face a lifetime of serious health problems? But you can help. Join me in Kmart for the March for Babies Walk. We'll work together to raise funds for research and programs that help the marginalized fight premature birth and birth defects and improve the health of moms and babies. Start your team today at marchforbabies.org.
My name is Don Wiskin. In 1994, I lost my 62-year-old father to complications of bypass surgery. In 1977, my 44-year-old brother was found dead in his apartment. He suffered a heart attack. In January of 98, my mother had a stroke and passed away in her bed. 21 days later, my 53-year-old brother passed away on his arrival to the hospital. He waited too long. In June that same year, I almost joined them at 42. What did I do? I took a 7-herb formula I now call Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, hawthorn, milk thistle, and valerian. Based on German studies of natural medicine, Extendivite is designed to clear blocked arteries, clean the toxins from your blood, and improve your immune system. To get your Extendivite, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website, heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Don't know what's in your drinking water? Better get a ProPure. With the Pro 1 G2.0 all-in-one filter, remove over 200 contaminants, including fluoride and lead. Taste water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure water filtration products. There's a ProPure system for you. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer for details on our current free shipping special or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So we're talking here about one of the spectacular cases of UFO history, 1971, Delphos, Kansas, a 16-year-old boy. And I see a picture of him here with this really nice-looking white dog.
Mm-hmm. His dog was there, too.
Okay.
He was at the site, yeah.
It's too bad the dog's not around. Is Ron Johnson still around to talk about this?
Ron Johnson is still around. He's now, late 50s or so, and he will not talk about the case. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And, in fact, he has covered the landing site, the circle that was left, and he covered it up. But that's it. I think the only person he would talk to about it would be Ted Phillips, who is the principal investigator of the case. And, by the way, you were mentioning John Greenwald's Black Vault website. He has archived about 60 of my reports. Unfortunately, I have not sent the rest to him. I had a personal illness at the time, and I have not got back to that, but they are archived, 60 of my reports, on the Black Vault website. So if anyone wants to wade through all the analysis of some of these, you can go there.
I would recommend that. Did he talk to you, Ron Johnson, or does that mean he cut off contact with everyone?
This was all... Ted Phillips did all of the investigating on this, and I've never talked to him. And I've worked with Ted Phillips. We had long discussions on this, and I've met Ted. Ted's been here a few times, and he did an excellent job of sample collecting. But this, at a time, I analyzed the samples about, 27 years later, after I found them. And this was actually my introduction resume into the analysis of UFO-related substances. I was about to retire, and I decided I was going to do this, and so you pick a very good case to investigate or to analyze, and I got a hold of Ted Phillips, and it was very funny. Well, he says, I don't know where there's any samples. And I went to a meeting in Ohio, the first MUFON meeting, as a matter of fact, and I met a man there. You might know him. He's an icon. It was John Timmerman. And John Timmerman, who has recently passed away, came up and started talking to me, and that man was amazing. He had all the information about me and what I was doing and so forth inside of 15 minutes. And I mentioned the Delphos samples. He says, he said, I have some of those in my carport garage. And he lives, by the way, near Delphos, Ohio, which was kind of funny. But anyway, he says, I can send them to you. And he had a lot of physical trace evidence, as I understand, because he was on the CUFOS board of directors or whatever. He was involved with that, and they moved their office, so he took all the physical trace evidence and stored it at his home. And so that's how I got the samples. Fortunately, I was still working. I was about to leave, and the lab was moving to another city, too. And so I had the workload was down, and so I had advantage of and access to just about any analytical instrument I wanted, and people were running some of the tests for me. So I really did an in-depth analysis on it. I think there's a 50, 60-page report on it. But, yeah, so it was, that's basically the story. I don't know if when I was discussing the background of the case, if I mentioned that you already alluded to it, that the ring was glowing. We mentioned that previously. And there was luminescence on the trees. But his parents touched the ring, and they had numbing effects. And his mother's numbness lasted to the day she died in the 1990s. And she took a picture with a Polaroid camera, and it took about about an hour after the deposit was laid down, and it was glowing. In the light of the glowing, she had no flash. The light of the glowing was enough to show the ring, which I thought was interesting. But anyway, personally, I call this the toxic waste dump event because of the problems it caused the parents.
Well, I had forgotten that detail, that they had gotten numbness that lasted years. I totally forgot about that. Were there any sort of determinations made by medical people?
I don't have that information.
Because that's very unusual.
Yeah. Well, there was a toxic material in there, and as I analyzed it, I could speculate that the deposit consisted of fulvic acids, which is really a water-soluble humate, and it had oxalic acid. And I think the oxalic acid was what caused the numbness and the burn, because that is rather toxic if you touch it. Now, some of these materials are degradation products of plant material, but this was in too high of concentrations to have been, deposited by plant. It was deposited as a liquid, a water solution, and all the controls samples around it did not have these materials.
When you're analyzing something like this, which is several decades old, and we all talk about chain of custody, obviously there's a strong possibility here that whatever you got was probably contaminated along the way, wouldn't you think?
Well, these were tightly sealed in film canisters, and they were taken, and there was information with them. They were taken by Ted Phillips 2 months after the event. And not only that, Ted is from Missouri, and he was a civil engineer at the time. It was packed in Missouri road map fragments. And he acknowledged that, he took those, and his handwriting was on them. And so I'm pretty sure that was the real McCoy, yeah.
Those were the samples that were given J. Allen Hynek, if I remember correctly. Of course, he was the one that started the Center for UFO Studies, where the samples were obtained by Timmerman. Now, Hynek, I recall seeing pictures of Hynek and Phillips at the site, and the one, there are several things about the case that are quite interesting. One is the impact on the environment that particular event had. It adversely affected the environment for decades, if not permanently.
Yeah, nothing would grow.
Nothing would grow there. And it also impacted nearby vegetation. But the other thing is the fact that the glow was there almost a full day. After that, which is that is a real head scratcher in and of itself. So, what kind of test did you perform? Gas spectrometry? I had I just put about everything into it. I don't have the report in front of me, but if you want the whole
analytical anagrams. What do I want to speak? There was infrared. There was nuclear magnetic resonance. There was ICP, which is inductively coupled plasma for elemental. There was EDS, which is also another elemental technique. I did extractions. I can't remember if we did any chromatography on that. I have to look up. There was UV. Oh, gosh.
Now, did you find anything in the test results from Delphos that could be a potential tie-in with the Poland case? Were there any similarities? Were there any commonalities, if you will?
Just the after effects, the glowing. That was the only thing. As far as physical substances were, no, there was no. These were two different things. So,
yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking is giving a clue to the propulsion system of these things.
We're going to do our break now. Let me remind you, we have a second radio show called After the Paracast. The only way to get it is to subscribe to the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com. We also offer an ad-free version of this show with better audio quality. We're going to start adding ad-free versions of the original classic episodes of the Paracast, plus.theparacast.com. Phyllis Budinger is with us. Nuts and bolts, UFO research, more to come with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Let's continue. We were talking here about the Delphos, Kansas UFO case from 1971, where Phyllis did, I guess we call it a forensic analysis. You were the CSI person for this?
Well, I don't know if I did analytical chemistry on it. I suppose you could call it a forensic analysis. It's a
Remember here, we're looking at the side effects of what's happening there.
Yeah.
And so we don't know where that happened. Is there anything that you're aware of based on your experience in the conventional world that would produce similar effects? Anything at all?
nothing at all. It's why it's bizarre. And so some that would argue, okay, this is degraded plants and stuff like that. No, it definitely is not, because those are the type of materials that they degrade to. The fact is, these were water-soluble humates, fulvic acids, oxalic acid, and these were not found in the controls. And I think this could possibly be related to some kind of biological thing or a process. It was some related to whatever the process they were doing. It was the decomposed components or whatever it was. I think I should get that a little better. Maybe you better back that up.
Well, maybe they just decided it was time to dump the bilge to lighten their load.
That's my thing. I think they're waste products. Maybe I'm thinking that it could be maybe something like hydroponics. And,
interesting. So it could have been some sort of growth medium that was kind of beyond its expiration date, and they decided to dump that, plus some of the excretions that the aliens scrape off their skins and probably store in very smelly vats and then dump it out the bottom.
By the way, this did have an odor,
It did have an odor. Interesting. I didn't recall. I don't recall remembering that.
Some people complained of sulfur odor. Now, in trace amounts, there were other things. I think they found a trace amount of mercaptan, which is a smelly compound. But these were in trace amounts, and there were trace. So
you didn't find those in the control samples, I'm assuming.
Oh, no.
Well, I remember meeting Ted many years ago, and almost the first case out of his mouth. At that point, he was like 6,000 cases he'd been involved with. Mm-hmm. The first case out of his mouth was Delphos. That, I think, without question, is his most intriguing and sensational case out of all the landing trace cases that he allegedly has compiled. I think he's around 7,000 now, maybe more.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you talked to Ted? We've been trying to get him back on the show, get a little sense of what's going on at the his so-called Marley Woods case that he's been working on for 20 plus years. When was the last time you talked to him? How's he doing?
I had sent some emails back and forth about a couple years ago, and I've been meaning to get back to him to see how he's doing. I know he's had some physical problems. He's in his early 70s now.
Yeah.
And he was doctoring for. He is also not really giving interviews that much anymore. So,
we've found that out. He's been on the show, and he was going to put up a website and start publishing some of the results from his many years at that infamous case. Has he ever contacted you about any sort of trace evidence or any sort of work that comes down, in your particular area of expertise from the Marley Woods case?
Occasionally, he has on a couple things on some cases that he's been on, and I can't remember specifics because I didn't find anything on these particular things, and so I don't think I even wrote a report on them. But yeah, he has contacted me on a few things.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's good to know that Ted at least is still, I guess, up and at 'em. I remember some of the pictures from back in the day when he was a kid, with
the Beatle haircut. Yeah,
with the Beatle haircut, tramping around with Jacques Vallée and Alan Hynek. I had the unique and I guess I can die a happy man. I met finally Jacques Vallée at the recent International UFO Congress, so my questionable ufological life is now complete.
Oh wow, that's one person I haven't met, and I wish I would have had the fortune to meet Hynek when he was alive too.
Yeah,
that would have been interesting.
Yeah,
I had several meetings with Hynek, and the most interesting one, I'll give you an example of this. This was really fun, where I introduced him to Charles Berlitz, who wrote the Bermuda Triangle and was co-author of the first book on Roswell. And the question that Hynek asked him was, how can I get more interest, more sales for my books? What do I have to do? He was asking him for advice because Berlitz had written best-selling books and had done very well with it. It was really interesting. It was kind of fun to watch these two guys go back and forth for, I don't know, about a half hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so looking at Delphos, Kansas, you've done all this work, but you couldn't say, even though these materials are original or unique, that this is ironclad evidence of a possible extraterrestrial origin of UFOs, right?
That's right. All I know is something bizarre happened, and you try to rule out everything else. And once the common explanations fail, you know you have something bizarre going on. You can't explain, why is that there? Why did they drop it? You know, so that's the type of thing you run into. Perfect example.
And maybe it was just an effort to get the Earthlings wondering what they were dropping and why.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say E.T. has a sense of humor, though.
No, I don't think so. Ted did tell me he thought that the thing was in trouble. The craft was in trouble, and they had to get rid of it. But you know, that was a speculation on his part. That he told me that some years ago.
Well, I used to joke about UFO crashes, especially Roswell, being the result of E.T. using the lowest bidder in building their spacecraft for interstellar travel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good enough for government work, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, here's I have as soon as we posted that you were going to be on the show, of course, you know, we have a very active forum community at forum.theparacast.com, and if folks go and register and sign up for the forum and everything, they can ask questions of our guests. So we have a number of questions here, and this is something that I became involved with, this particular aspect of anomalous sites, shall we say. I was involved with Lefty Levengood and BLT Research in the bovine excision site study. And one of the things that we found around the animal, in one case that I was the field person, collected samples and whatnot, was extreme elevation of levels of magnetite. And around the animal, there was a 300% increase. If I remember correctly, it might have been 600% right at the animal, and then down to 300% increase in the amount of magnetite. And this was directly around this particular mutilated cow in Colorado. And then as we went out to 50 feet, then boom, the levels of magnetite went down to control levels. Have you done any sort of work on this whole idea of magnetite being somehow concentrated around landing sites, any sort of trace evidence cases, and in this case, cattle mutilations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've just done some recently. I was out to the Travis Walton site in November.
That's a good cliffhanger, Phyllis. We're going to find out what you found at the Travis Walton site and the issues with regard to mutilations in our next segment with Phyllis Budinger. And Gene and Chris, you're in the Paracast. Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom106.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom, the number 106.com. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom106.com.
This is Sharon Hunt. Before using Heart and Body Extract, my energy level was very, very low. I could only walk a few feet and then would have to sit down. I was tired and lethargic, but after taking Heart and Body Extract, my energy level has improved greatly, and I can now walk longer distances without getting tired so fast. Thank you, Heart and Body Extract.
Learn the secrets of an effective, natural, 100% organic nutritional supplement for a healthy heart and circulation at hbextract.com.
Hi, Pat Matthews again. I want to talk to you about selling online. And when I say selling, I'm talking about your home, your car, and even buying a house or a new set of wheels. There's a new kid in town, and that's buysellmakeoffer.com. The revolution has already begun, and I invite you to be a part of it. You see, get in on the ground floor because buysellmakeoffer.com never charges item fees. Can you imagine what the other guys might charge you for selling a car on their site? Let alone a house. Well, buysellmakeoffer.com doesn't do that. And you can use Skype and YouTube videos to sell your products, big or small. Go right now to buysellmakeoffer.com and set up your account. For as little as $7.95 per month, you can sell up to 50 items, and they'll give you the first 30 days free just to try it out. Remember, no per item fees. Join the revolution today. buysellmakeoffer.com. And tell them Pat Matthews sent you.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
I notice Chris is using a kindler, gentler Paracast stinger. All right. Phyllis Budinger is joining us. We're talking about some research into cattle mutilations. And you also mentioned going to the site of the Travis Walton abduction. Phyllis, tell us more.
Yeah, well, I've been there twice now, and the second time I collected some soil samples. Now, the problem is that they're 40 years. They've been weathered 40 years, and there's been a forest fire through there. I don't know if I'll find anything. The analysis isn't done yet. I have a lot of data to check on. I'm going to send it for soil assay, and I've got some other tests that I'm going to submit it for. But I did do the magnetite test, and I did find right around the site where the craft was, there's a little higher level of magnetite. I found it in other soil samples from other sites. Also, the Bentwaters case, the chemists that worked on that also found higher levels of magnetite around the craft. I think they're ferrites, natural iron-containing particles that are in all soils, but for some reason they concentrate at the site. We speculate what it might be, but again, we speculate that it's a magnetic effect from the craft propulsion system. This must have a heck of a power system, because it's to be able to attract particles close, to it and to the site through the soil. And this is what we're thinking. I'm working with another chemist on the East Coast who basically that's what his speculation was. There was one speculation by Levengood that it was meteoric dust, but I don't believe that one. In fact, I am sending some of this magnetite from a case in Montana for an analysis to see if it is meteoric dust, but I just want to put that one to rest. But I think it's the ferrites that are naturally in the soil.
Well, this all of a sudden I just had a light bulb go off over my head. If this magnetic event is drawing magnetite to some sort of central point, shouldn't the levels of magnetite dip down dramatically at a certain point before going back up to control levels? Because you're attracting magnetite from an area and it's leaving that particular let's say a ring around the area. So shouldn't the levels be highly elevated around the event, and then they should fall off, because that's the material that's being drawn to the event, and then it should go back up to control levels, right?
Well, that's a good question, because something I don't have enough data to look to see if that's true, and I'm going to look at it from that aspect. No, that is a very good question, and I can't tell you for sure, because I'll just have to look at the data. Now, I have it from two or three other sites. And,
yeah, I'm gonna look at the data too in the bovine excision site study, because I took samples from actually right at the animal, every 5 feet out to 50 feet, and then I think 150 feet, and then control a mile away in 4 directions.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's good.
So yeah, it cost a lot to send all that dirt.
Oh, yeah.
Chris, while you're talking, something occurs to me. Are we looking here at some kind of comparison between the mutilations and UFOs that might be favorable, or is it just two different types of cases but trying to do similar things and getting solid evidence?
Well, there's no real consistency. My case happened to feature elevated levels of magnetite. Not all cases do. So if there was consistency through the data, then we'd have something to hang our hat on. But if one case is going to be, dramatically different from another, obviously you're not going to be able to make any real educated, come up with any educated hypotheses based on inconsistent data. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Phyllis, but I mean, if all this stuff was we had the same exact repeatable or replicated data sets after analysis, then we would have something to go on. But it's still, there's no consistency. Some cases have it, some don't. Other cases have elevated levels of like she mentioned, the Delphos case have elevated levels of naturally occurring elements that are in a strange combination that shouldn't be there. So until we get consistency, and until we can actually go into a case and be able to determine beforehand what we're going to find, which is how kind of science works, and replicate that data and prove out the hypothesis, and we're still gathering data.
In some cases, I think that maybe the animal was dropped from a height. There was evidence for some animals having been dropped, so then the craft would not have landed. Maybe in some cases it landed.
Yeah, good point. I've had cases where animals have had their horns driven into the ground, even snapped off, all the upper side ribs broken right against the spine, which would indicate the animal was dropped from at least 40 or 50 feet, if not higher. So, yeah, that's a good point. Now, speaking on the mutilation, one of the reasons why I moved, Phyllis, to Arizona was to get away from mutilation cases like I had to deal with in Colorado, because Arizona has not been hit officially that many times over the years, although there were cases right around the time that Travis got taken, interestingly enough. I just had someone send me an article from the Arizona Daily Sun that there's a ranch 30 miles from me that They had just had a number of cases recently, and the lady claims that she's been having them every year. It's a cost of doing business. There was a claim that 3 elk were found in August in a mutilated condition on the ranch there. And it's surrounded by Hopi ranch land, which is interesting. And right through the middle is Diablo Canyon, which is probably where these cases are occurring. So, what you banish, you invoke. I've been trying to call this woman and get permission to come up there and stuff, but I'm not being taken seriously, evidently. Now, you were involved in, I think, 2 cases, if I'm not mistaken, definitely one, where you determined pure hemoglobin was found on an animal in one case in Oregon, I think in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then wasn't there another one, I think?
That's the only one that I found, hemoglobin. I would like to see if other cases. I think on that it is pure hemoglobin, yeah. But I think regarding its source, I think the jury is still out because, first of all, I don't have background in the biological sciences, yet I have questions. Was there some sort of capillary separation of the blood on the dead animal and the hair? Or could there have been natural processes such as a bacterial attack on the blood just leaving the hemoglobin?
Right.
And I think those things should be checked out. And also, it would be nice to have some blood for some more animals and to see if it's still hemoglobin. And the problem with that one was I only had sub-milligram levels of the sample.
Let's do our break here, and then we'll continue with this analysis. With Gina and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body Brain and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't take on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
Hey, I rode the elevator with you, but I don't work on the upper floors. I just want to squeeze in there right next to you, so the RFID scanner in my pocket can capture all your personal information, your debit and credit cards, even your work ID badge. So your identity is now my identity. Going up, So am I.
For over 10 years, ID Stronghold has pioneered RFID blocking wallets and ID badge holders for consumers, the U.S. military, and even the Executive Office of the President. Shouldn't you be protected too? ID Stronghold wallets cost about the same as wallets in most stores, but give you extra protection.
I'm Walt Augustinowitz, founder and CEO of ID Stronghold. Don't be a victim of electronic pickpocketing. Protect yourself from crimes you can't see with ID Stronghold wallets, card sleeves, and purses.
Visit idstronghold.com and get the original RFID blocking wallets and badge holders. idstronghold.com.
Destroy harmful bacteria, allergens, bedbugs, dust mites, fleas in your home with the Ladybug Steam Vapor System. The Ladybug dives deep on surfaces without any toxic residue. Traditional control agents contain toxic chemicals which do more harm than good. Sanitize and disinfect using just water. Quick, fast, and surprisingly easy.
Find out more now by calling 800-997-6584. Ask for Randy. That's 800-997-6584. Or go to advap.com/GCN. That's advap.com/GCN.
Hi, it's Grant Cameron from presidentialufo.com. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So Phyllis Budinger is immersed here in an analysis of evidence. Can you go on, please?
Okay, like I said, I had sub-milligram quantities of samples. So it was just little flecks of blood. And I would feel better if I would have had more blood to work with, and also from other cases. But there's no question that was hemoglobin. But there could have been other reasons. So, again, it needs more investigation.
Right. Other than possible natural causes, how would you be able to separate out the hemoglobin from the rest of the constituent elements in the blood? Would that be considered unusual to find something like that on a dead animal out in the field?
Well, with our technology, it would be, because it's rather complex, I believe.
So you need a centrifuge.
Yeah,
you need a centrifuge to spin the blood out.
Yeah, and it's a complicated procedure. And again, you need a centrifuge, and I don't think they could have done something like that on site with our technology. So.
And what would be the motivation? How about animals that have been found with abnormally depleted amounts of copper in the blood? Would that be another case of needing a centrifuge?
Well, I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Because we've had some cases with almost no copper, just trace elements of copper in the blood. There are some natural conditions that can lead to copper deficiency in blood, but not down to the levels that were claimed, I think, in one National Institute for Discovery Sciences paper, if I remember correctly, that there was a case that was practically devoid of copper. Elevated copper, I could see, especially near polluted, like a Superfund site that we had in near the San Luis Valley, about 40 miles up into the mountains, trashed the top 17, 20 miles of the Alamosa River, and then downstream from that in the valley, animals were found with so much copper and heavy metals in their blood that they actually shouldn't have been walking around.
Wow.
And the EPA herd there in the valley determined that there were excessive amounts, unhealthy amounts of heavy metals. And when the scientist who was in charge of that particular project went to his supervisors and said, well, we have to draft a press release to warn ranchers in the area who are watering their animals from that source. We have to warn them that this is unhealthy beef, and the EPA wouldn't let him. And they fired him. He did a whistleblowing routine with Westwood Magazine in Denver and spilled the beans on him. And it's interesting, during that 2-year period, I had 7 mutilations along those canals and waterways coming out of the Alamosa River, which were unexplained horses and cattle. The case with the elevated magnetite was very near there as well. So this stuff, the more you get into it, the more the bald spots appear on my head from scratching so much.
Yeah. Well, you ask one question, then you have 6 more that you have to ask. Why is this? And
right.
It just generates more questions.
Well, we have some questions again from our audience, and here's one from Ufology, who's our nuts and bolts guy up in Calgary. Randall always asks good questions. As best as you can in everyday terms, can you please give us an idea of what chemical evidence you believe would be sufficient to scientifically conclude that an alien substance is present and not merely some sort of unusual chemical compound, or I'm adding combination of compounds that could be manufactured by humans? I mean, what would be the smoking gun thing that you would see it and know?
If it was a piece of metal, say, I would say the composition of the metal plus the isotopic ratios, if they were different from terrestrial values. Do you know what isotopic ratios are? Let me try to explain it. Well, most of the elements have isotopes. That is, an element can have different masses because they have varying numbers of neutrons in the nucleus. And let me use the example of copper to explain it. Copper has two isotopes, copper 63 and 65. I'll say the isotope I'll call copper A and copper B, so I don't have to worry about the numbers. But on Earth, the abundance of these isotopes is always the same. Copper A is 69% and copper B is 31%. Wherever it's a constant. Wherever you go on Earth, it's going to be the same amount. But in another solar system, say you go to Zeta Reticuli or Alpha Centauri, the constant might be different. And let me pull some numbers out of the air. But it's possible copper A could be 55% and copper B could be 45%. So we can measure these. And so if we see copper isotopes are not the same amount on Earth, like 69 and 69 and 31, we know it has to be from another solar system. The reason for this is in the dim eons of time, in the formation of the solar system, the physical processes might be slightly different, and so in the formation of the elements, their elemental isotopic abundances might be different. By the way, we do see isotopic differences in meteors, which are extraterrestrial or from other solar system or wherever they're from. But that's basically it. So if you had a piece of metal that had abundances that did not compare to that on Earth, you know it's extraterrestrial, can't be. So that would be a thing, and along with the composition, that would be a definite flag. The only problem is on some of these, I've done some isotopic ratio measurements. I've had them done on some metal samples, and I have not found any of these ratios to be different. But we know so little about the aliens. What if they're time travelers? And they come from Earth in the first place, you know, and so maybe there wouldn't be any differences.
Yeah, well, of course, we're kind of speculating here, though, about motives of aliens, or even if there are aliens. Amongst all the things you've investigated, and you've found a lot of strange things here, can you say this absolutely 100% did not come from Earth? No, I haven't been able to. It's just these bizarre findings that shouldn't be there. I cannot say that. I do have a meteor somebody sent me just recently that I could say that, but as far as alien origin,
there's one meteor.
I can't prove it. I can't prove it, but it's just collect the energy, the data and whatever. So you were talking about mutilations.
Right.
I have a very interesting case that I looked at around 7 years ago or so, and this was a mutilated buffalo, or a bison, I should call it. He had a name. He was Frank, was found in the field with all the typical laser-like incisions and organ removal and so forth. And a lady who investigates these and has a website in Canada sent me some samples, a bunch of samples. But what was really interesting was there was singed hair on the animal, and so I was sent some singed hair, and I was sent some normal hair. Well, I went about analyzing it, and I found that there was a substance on the singed hair, and I was able to identify it as a compound known as 3-hydroxyanthranilic acid. And I have no idea that, this could not come from a common substance introduced by the farmer or from the environment of the bison.
Well, give us an idea of what that particular substance could be used for, or you kind of give us an idea of what it is.
Well, it's a compound that, when I did a literature search, it's commonly referred as a metabolic product of tryptophan. I can say tryptophan was found in high levels in a cow in Utah. This came from NIDS. And it was thought that maybe the Utah animal had been sedated with tryptophan before euthanasia. But I don't think this was the case for this bison because it's on the exterior of the animal.
Let's look further into this anomaly.
Wow, this is interesting.
It sure is. We got a lot more to come with Phyllis Budinger. And Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's Lemke soft.com. Lemkesoft.com. Lemke soft.com.
Attention citizens. This man has received national attention for accurately predicting every major financial trend, including the market crash of 2008. His name is Harry Dent. And in his newly released book, he is making even bigger and bolder predictions that have the potential to devastate the world economy and your personal wealth. You can get a free copy of Harry Dent's bestseller, The Demographic Cliff, containing never-before-published information by simply visiting www.harrydentresearch.com. Again, that's www.harrydentresearch.com.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
Planning to buy food storage? Wait a minute. Many companies try to confuse you with the number of servings they sell. It's not about the number of servings, it's about the number of calories. In emergencies, calories mean survival. Go to ReadySupplyFoods.com for a comparison of leading companies. Ready Supply Foods sells the most calories per dollar of any company. Our 23 entrees and breakfasts are delicious and full of nutritious calories. The new leader in value and quality. Go to ReadySupplyFoods.com today.
Sciatica, lower back pain, hip pain, poor posture. If you suffer from any of these problems, get ready to relax. Introducing an amazing product that's been in the market for over 25 years, the Sacro Wedgie. It was invented by a football coach using a common-sense osteopath technique. He created this device to help his athletes by isolating and supporting the sacrum, which is the keystone of our anatomy. This wedge-shaped bone is in the center of our hips, where a lot of pain starts. Simply relax 20 minutes daily on the amazingly simple Sacro Wedgie and let gravity do the work, helping muscles rebalance and start releasing nerves. Sit in the Sacro Wedgie at the computer or while traveling to help correct posture to finally help relieve those stubborn aches and pains for only $33.95. It's made in the USA, so click the family-owned website at sacrowedgie.com, spelled SACROWEDGY.com, or call 1-800-737-9295. That's 1-800-737-9295. Relax your back pain away with the Sacro Wedgie.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
This is Robert Hastings, author of UFOs and Nukes, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Yes, when we find anomalies, we're all just so anxious to figure out what's going on. Phyllis Budinger, tell us more.
Okay, that was basically it. But as a postscript, I think this lady, she released my report on her website. Up until then, she had one hit on her website from a U.S. government agency. But the day after, or 2 or 3 days after, she had 164 hits by U.S. government agencies. So something must have piqued their interest, you know. So
she was in Canada, though, right? This is a Canadian case?
Yes.
In which province? Alberta?
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan, okay. And this would have been 2008?
Yeah.
Interesting. Was Fern Bazil, I think, did you ever talk with Fern Bazil?
No.
He covered in the late 90s and early 2000s, he covered Saskatchewan and Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember who this woman could be. You don't have to
Barb Campbell.
Barb Campbell. Okay, the name does kind of ring a bell. Wow,
yeah,
that's interesting. So this particular compound was found on the singed hair sample, is what you're saying, and not found on the other the control sample.
No, the other samples I didn't do much with because they were pretty well graded by the time I got them. But hide samples and stuff. But that was the hair sample was it threw me, and I have no explanation for it except what I mentioned about the tryptophan.
And so when you say the government hit count went to times 60.
It went from,
no, that's U.S. government, correct? That's not Canadian government.
It's U.S. government. U.S. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, something there piqued their interest. That's so I don't know what I found.
Now, did they actually send hide samples from the incisional area?
I think she sent some samples like that, but they were pretty smelly and degraded by the time I got them, and they weren't shipped properly. So,
well, it's good to use formalin. That always helps.
Yeah.
Because I would have been interested to hear if there was any cauterized capillaries, heated up fat in the tissue and that sort of thing, hemoglobin. Wow, that's very interesting. I've never heard that before. I've heard a lot of things have been found in mutilated cattle, including mescaline, nicotine, barbiturates, coagulants, anticoagulants, every type of tranquilizer you can think of, ketamine. The list goes on and on and on. Barbiturates. So, yeah, we need to do more work. Unfortunately, we can't get to most cases in a timely manner because scientists like you have to open up packages that you
some were pretty bad.
Yeah, my girlfriend a couple of times made me strip outside and hose me down with cold water before she would let me come in the house. And throw those clothes away. Yeah, well, there's nothing like a little Vicks under your nose when you're down into these things. Oh, my God. Well, you wanted to talk about some other cases that you've had the opportunity to analyze, other materials. Approximately how many cases have you been asked to become involved with? Can you give us a ballpark? Or
let's see. I'd say almost 100.
Wow. Well, besides the Delphos case, what's the most intriguing one?
Well, of course, the Betty Hill dress was.
Oh, let's talk about that. Oh, I totally forgot about that. That you, that Kathleen got you the dress, and
yeah, she did.
Oh, yeah. This will be interesting, Gene. What do you think?
Yeah, we should follow that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at least it's not panties coming from New Zealand.
Oh, please. But then, if you read about that, what makes it crazier is that I saw the emails from that person in New Zealand describing in explicit detail how those things got soiled. Oh, forget it.
Yeah. I don't think I want to read about that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk Betty Hill and the infamous dress. Not many. I don't think there's many people that really know that some work was done on that dress, and let's talk about it.
Do your listeners know the case? Maybe you should go over the case. And
we've had
the background on any analysis is you got to get as much background information.
Right, and we've covered the Hill case a number of times, not only with Kathleen but with other abduction researchers. So I think most of our listeners are aware that this could be called the first real, I guess, documented case of alien abduction.
Yeah, really.
Claimed alien abduction. This is back in the early 60s. Life magazine finally covered it, and John Fuller wrote Interrupted Journey, which I read as a kid, I think in high school. So I think most people are aware of the case, but and also Betty Hill, just as a little aside here, she actually did a very good job investigating the only known cattle mutilation case in New Hampshire. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, she wrote up quite a very professionally well-written piece on what turned out to be the only cattle mutilation ever reported in New Hampshire, starring Betty Hill. So, anyway, why don't you go ahead and set it up? How did you get a hold of the dress?
Okay, about 2001, I became aware that the dress she was wearing during the abduction existed. I didn't know that, and I read about it in the MUFON Journal, which was the 40th anniversary commemoration issue of the event. So that's when I contacted Kathy Marden, Betty's niece, and soon she sent me some swatches from the dress. And I should tell you the details about the dress. You hear about the story, but it helped a lot for me to make some interesting speculations. Not many details on the dress history are documented, but the dress she wore that night was new. It was worn only one other day during that weekend, but not the day before the abduction. Therefore, which was fortunate, it had never been laundered, and so forth. And when the abduction began, Betty recalls that two beings were on each side of her and escorted her to the craft with their hands under her arms. And she told me, she said, I put up a hell of a fight before I crossed the threshold, she said. And I asked whether she hit with her hands, and she said, oh, no, I kicked like hell because my arms were restricted. Well, the dress obviously suffered stresses. And then while on the craft, she remembers that halfway through the physical, they decided to remove the dress, and they had difficulties with the zipper. And once removed, she said the dress ended up in a heap on the craft floor. And well, what happened was she got home. She put the dress folded in the bottom of the closet, and it remained there for several days. Then she finally removed it, and it was covered with a pink powder. So she threw it in the trash, and then she quickly changed her mind. She put it out in the doors in the sun, and the powder blew away, unfortunately. But not all of it did, I don't believe. But it left stains, all pink stains all over. And these were where the entities had touched the dress, interesting enough. And the lining on the right side was torn from the waist to the hem, and the top of the zipper was ripped. And, of course, because of the damage, it couldn't be worn again. Well, I did a lot of analysis on this. It's actually reference number 25 in Greenwald's Black Vault archives. Well, I noticed that I could make some conclusions. Well, it was obvious that the pink areas of the dress suffered, some kind of chemical effects, and both the dye and the fiber were attacked. And there was a biologically derived material on there, and I'm pretty sure that it's mildew. And the highest concentration was in the pink areas. And it was found mostly to be on the exterior of the dress, not the interior, except for the underarm swatch. Then that was totally permeated with that. So I could definitely say that these were not elimination products from Betty or body respiration, or elimination products. And there's traces amounts of natural common materials like dust and so forth that you'd find on a dress which hung in a closet.
Let's do our break here and continue with this analysis of that dress.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about garment that was worn by one of Bill Clinton's girlfriends. We're talking about Betty Hill's dress. Okay, just want to clarify that for no reason, whatever we've got. Sure, let's continue with Gene and Chris. You're in
a fascinating episode.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on our distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
As you know, neighbors, web hosting can be pretty cheap, but not all hosting is the same. DreamHost wins Best of Awards year after year. You get unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, and even the low-cost plans put your sites on high-performance SSDs. Want to know more about what DreamHost has to offer? Go to technightowl.com/host. Once again, that's technightowl.com/host.
You're fired. According to the Small Business Administration, 75% of small businesses plan to eliminate jobs or reduce workers' hours to part-time. You're fired. According to Gallup, the unemployment rate recently jumped to nearly 9%, and the underemployment rate hit a staggering 17.9%. You're fired. 1 out of 3 young adults and 1 out of 2 recent college graduates are underemployed. Hello, I'm Keith Abel, a pharmacist and a home business entrepreneur. In 2011, I became one of those statistics myself. Instead of looking for another job in corporate America, I joined Dr. Joel Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy. We're creating steady incomes for ourselves and would like to show you how to do the same. If you want to supplement your current income, replace your income, so you don't have to become one of the statistics, then give me a call toll-free at 866-257-3105, 866-257-3105. You're fired. Don't wait till you hear those words. Start creating an extra income today. 866-257-3105.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Betty Hill's dress. Phyllis Budinger, tell us more.
Okay. Well, the stuff I found, you could not say it was from an alien or unknown source. I did have DNA analysis done, and I just want to mention one thing. Most of it was human DNA and that, but there was one that was called, they found a bacteria, and it was called Proteobacterium, and this is soil bacteria, which could be picked up anywhere. And if the dress was on the ground, it could have gotten there easily, but because of the location of the bacteria, which was on the left sleeve, if Betty was wearing the dress, she would have to be in the prone position, flat on the ground at some point, and this is highly unlikely. And the only time we know that the dress was on the ground was when the dress was removed from Betty in the craft and thrown crumpled on the craft floor. And I think some of this bacteria could easily have been from soil dirt on the floor. brought in on footwear worn by Betty and the entities, because the abduction did take place on a dirt road. So I think that was interesting. And I do have some speculations from the analysis. And again, a lot of background from Betty was necessary for this. What this dress was literally a new dress that was reduced to a rag as a result of something bizarre happening. That's absolutely no question. And from the chemical analysis I did, it supports Betty's account of the event, and I found nothing at all that would contradict her story. So I have some speculations. Betty told me there was a most unpleasant, unidentifiable odor on the craft. And I think this odor could have emanated from the craft occupants and could be the result of, natural body elimination of oils or respiratory agents. So I guess some alien sweat and smell. These, I think, were transformed to the dress on contact. And as I said before, the pink areas are most profound right around the top of the dress, and especially around the sleeves where the entities gripped Betty as they took her to and from the craft. And wherever there was contact on the dress by aliens, there was pink discoloration. I think what happened is the biological components on the dress were probably also on her skin, because I didn't mention this, but both her and Barney felt really clammy and dirty after the event. Well, I don't think that the stuff that was originally deposited on the dress directly caused the discoloration to pink, because Betty found it days later when she took the dress out of the closet. I think the substance was probably moist, and so the moisture didn't dissipate because she had folded the dress up. And I think this moist substance served as a nutrient for a natural biological growth, which I think was mildew. And this grew, and days later the dress dried, and the powdery residue from this whatever grew, it remained. So it was the mildew-type material that I feel caused the discoloration and possibly interacted with the dress fiber. And by the way, let's see, the entity on the right, when she had the scuffle, when they were taking her across the threshold, I think took the brunt of her attack, because this is where the lining is ripped. And also it's noted that the right sleeve swatch is totally permeated with the mildew-like material. And so I think a tighter grip on her was necessary.
Well, Betty was right-handed, too, so that would have been her go-to hand to fight off something. And also, other things, I think that the soil bacteria remained, and well, I previously mentioned that I think it was tracked in. It was from dirt tracked in by the craft and picked up by the dress when it was on the floor. So anyway, it's rather interesting. Some people might say, well, why didn't Barney's clothes turn pink or discolor? Well, as soon as he got home on the day of the event, he had all of his clothes and everything cleaned. So that didn't happen to his clothes. But anyhow, that's about what I came to the conclusion. I think it supports whatever she said. There were other things on other fragments I found on there, but those were the most profound. Like, for instance, I found some spider blood where she sat on a bench when she had a hot dog on her way down because she sat on a spider. And a lot of things like that. But everything that she said, it just followed perfectly.
But wouldn't there be something, if this dress had been in a spacecraft, that would indicate coming into contact with something that was not of this Earth?
Not necessarily.
Yeah,
I'm just asking.
Well, I think that she did come in contact with something. I think the aliens' respiratory products, and I think that can be explained. I think that's what caused the whole generation of mildew and the whole 9 yards. And so she did mention the odor, and I said, "What did it smell like?" You know, the earliest analytical instruments ever made was man's five senses. So I always ask that to people: what did it smell like when you went into the craft? She says, "I don't know. It was most unpleasant." She says, and then later on, Kathy told me that he thought it smelled like marigolds. So that's the closest she could come.
Smelled like what?
Marigolds. You know,
marigolds. Yeah. Kind of a...
Yeah, they're not too fragrant. I mean, they're fragrant, but they're not too... They don't smell so good. Even the deer won't go near them.
Well, they actually, if you plant them around your garden, they help keep bugs away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's kind of a bitter, cloying... It's kind of hard to describe, peppery almost. Yeah, it's irritating smell.
Yeah.
Well, how about other abduction cases? Have you been asked to analyze other articles of clothing? I would think that that this would be an automatic no-brainer for people like David Jacobs, the late Bud Hopkins, and others to have bed clothing analyzed that were allegedly worn during one of these types of visitations or abductions. Has anyone ever contacted you further about doing work with current cases?
Let's hold that answer till our next segment, and we'll have more with Phyllis Budinger, and we'll find out whether she's been contacted by anyone else involved in researching UFO abduction cases after having analyzed that dress worn by Betty Hill. Oh, boy. Now, the last two episodes of After the Paracast have been special. So, 2 weeks ago, we continued our 10th anniversary roundtable with Paul Kimball, Greg Bishop, and Goggs Mackay. And last week, our three listeners, part of our listener roundtable, Sue, Ufology, and Stoneheart, stayed for the second show. You can get After the Paracast if you're a member of the Paracast Plus. You also get the ad-free version of this show with higher quality audio. We're delivering show transcripts now. We'll have a special section for classic ad-free episodes. So lots out there. More to come. If you want to learn more about the Paracast Plus, go to plus.theparacast.com. That's plus.theparacast.com.
Good stuff, Gene.
Oh, it's really good stuff, and we want to get into a lot of the remaining questions from our listeners and more. You're with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
If you're fascinated by UFOs, ancient aliens, archaeological mysteries, ghost hunting, Atlantis, and any other paranormal topic as we are, be sure to check out apmagazine.info each month. Since 1985, it has presented the latest research by top researchers like Andrew Collins, Brad Steiger, and many others, and contains interviews with such leading personalities as Jacques Vallée. Click on one of their banners and check out apmagazine.info. As you know, neighbors, web hosting can be pretty cheap, but not all hosting is the same. DreamHost wins Best of Awards year after year. You get unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, and even the low-cost plans put your sites on high-performance SSDs. Want to know more about what DreamHost has to offer? Go to technightowl.com/host. Once again, that's technightowl.com/host.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Attention citizens. This man has received national attention for accurately predicting every major financial trend, including the market crash of 2008. His name is Harry Dent. And in his newly released book, he is making even bigger and bolder predictions that have the potential to devastate the world economy and your personal wealth. You can get a free copy of Harry Dent's bestseller, The Demographic Cliff, containing never-before-published information by simply visiting www.harrydentresearch.com. Again, that's www.harrydentresearch.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
So we have Phyllis Budinger with a question on the table. It's sitting there on the table. Let me get it right now. Here it is. See? Question on the table, but it's not on that piece of paper. That's just my show schedule. So Phyllis, as you were asked, been in contact with anyone else with regard to a UFO abduction case?
Yes, I'm working on one right now. But Kathleen Marden sent me a T-shirt a couple of years ago, and I just finished. I did a lot of work on it, and darn, I can't find anything on it. It was faded. She says, "Is it related to what happened to Betty's dress?" Well, the only thing I could tell it definitely was not the same thing that happened to Betty's dress. There was no substance on it that I could identify, and either that substance was gone, or either it was some kind of an energy source that caused the coloration. That's all I could come up with. But I did a lot of work on that. A lot of these samples that come in are actually research projects. And the clothing is one such thing. You know, it takes me a long time, and I try everything I can think of. I put my whole bag of analytical tricks on this T-shirt. And at least I could say, no, this was entirely different than what happened to Betty Hill's dress. But I couldn't pick up anything outside of common mundane things you'd find on a T-shirt. This was a different substance than Betty. I mean, it was cotton. Betty's dress was cellulose acetate. It was the dye and fiber had not been attacked like Betty's. There was absolutely no substance identifiable on there, and on and on. So the speculations I made that was the best I could come up with. There's nothing there. So it was there, or it was an energy source or something.
Well, certainly we're getting slightly graphic here. If someone claims that they were sexually probed by aliens or somehow involved in an effort to create a hybrid humanoid alien, there ought to be some kind of physical evidence around, unless ET is being very circumspect and cleaning everything up.
Well, they're cagey, I'll tell you, from what the stuff I've been getting. They're cagey.
Yeah, maybe they have some sort of energy process that totally erases all trace of something. You just don't know.
Well, the interesting thing about this one was the man's cell phone was on and recording, and toward the end of the recording, there was a purple neon type light that was on the phone, and I don't know if it's related or not. But that's where the background information comes in handy. Was it connected with that? And interesting enough, the T-shirt, when he woke up, he sat on the edge of the bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, and next thing you knew, it was 8 o'clock, and his T-shirt was on inside out and backwards. So I could tell things like, okay, he said he was sweating profusely. I could say, okay, the sweat was more abundant on the inside, which meant since it was inside out when he was there, that the lion's share of the perspiration came before the shirt was removed. I could find out all kinds of things like that, but to find out what it was, caused it, I don't know. The perspiration was the only thing I could find in abundance, and I don't think that caused the staining. And besides, here's the interesting thing about that: it had all pink faded spots on there, but it gradually restored back to its original color over time. And I couldn't tell.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's a weird one, and so.
How could you explain that with a mundane?
Yeah, unless again some energy source and something.
Yeah, but is there anything conventional that could account for that kind of effect?
Well, I'll tell you. If your listeners out there are listening, please tell me, because I put UV light on it, infrared light on it. I put it in the microwave. I did everything trying to turn it, to a pink color. My speculation was that maybe there was an energy source that raised things up to a higher energy level, and then it slowly released itself, and the color went back. Don't know.
But why pink? That's interesting. There's a correlation there between the Hill case, 50 years before. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but still, it was not the same thing. Definitely not the same process that happened to the Biddy Hill.
Right, but it's the same color.
Yeah, I know.
So maybe these are, fashionably challenged aliens that are still stuck in the pink and pastel 80s or something.
I have some other.
I think I even had a pink jacket back then, actually.
Oh, yeah, pink and black. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, why haven't more people contacted you? I would think that you'd be inundated.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I've got some more clothing now from a more recent event that happened here in Ohio, and it was a missing time in a state park where some fishermen. It's very similar to the Allagash story.
Right.
And at night, something happened. Missing time. They woke up, the campfire was out, and I have all the clothing from them.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I'm just working on that now.
You're going to find fish guts, salmon eggs, bacon grease, probably a little whiskey.
Yeah. Well, I found the guy was a construction worker, and I found paint on the front. But I'm just working on it. One thing that interests me, and it might not mean anything, but I found on the sleeves stains that could only be observed by UV light, putting them over. So I'm focusing on that now, and I'm trying to isolate that so I can get a better look at it.
Yeah, there are some lubricants and automotive products that fluoresce.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm getting. I'm extracting and I'm doing things on that, and I don't know. Maybe I'll find something like that mundane.
Well, you got the bag of tricks to throw at the at the equation here.
Yeah.
So, oh man, this is great stuff. This kind of show I like, Phyllis, when we can actually talk to a real scientist doing real science and with an objective view of these mysteries, if we will. But you keep saying aliens. It sounds like you really have a sense that we are being visited by extraterrestrials. Of course, you did mention the possibility of some sort of meta-terrestrial, if you will, or even time, chrononauts. Maybe it's Andrew Basiago coming back from the future trying to mess with everybody.
Before we go on and we go back to the future.
Man.
Well, all right. That's where we have the flying roller derbies and everything. And the flying cars. Why don't we have flying cars as they had in Back to the Future?
Well,
I'm really concerned over that.
They do. They're just now coming out.
Yeah, well, I guess we were late.
They even have a flying drone that can seat a pilot.
Well, I'm very conceited myself. We have Phyllis Budinger with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Serious investors and traders want to make 81% return in 60 seconds? Use the same secret algorithm professional hedge fund managers use to make billions of dollars of profits. Turn $250 into $4,903 in just 7 clicks of a mouse. Our tool is so simple that my 82-year-old grandmother can use it to make insane stock market profits. Go to BigBuckRiches.com. Watch the free video before the hedge funds make us take it down. Go to BigBuckRiches.com. From the Robert Allen System, current returns not indicative of future results.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
It's no secret that pathogens such as bacteria, viruses, molds, and fungus can inflict severe damage in the human body. Fortunately, a new and vastly improved silver solution has been developed. Supernatural Silver is a revolutionary broad-spectrum antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal solution that can be used inside the body as well as on the skin. Supernatural Silver is unique and superior to colloidal and ionic silvers, using a patented technology that is highly effective against colds, flus, infections, food poisoning, and yeast, in addition to many other pathogens. Supernatural Silver is scientifically supported, extremely safe, and is the #1 choice of thousands of people for immune system support. Find out how Supernatural Silver could change your life. Go to supernaturalsilver.com and use the promo code HEALTHY for 20% off. That's supernaturalsilver.com. And like us on Facebook.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Hey guys, Pat Matthews here to tell you about the newest and best way to sell products online. It's buysellmakeoffer.com, an enormously revolutionary way to sell your stuff online. It's time to clean out the garage, your old golf clubs, sports equipment, tools, and yes, even your car. Forget about the way the other guys have taken more than their share from you when the sales were finalized. Look, it's happened to me over and over and over. Then I found buysellmakeoffer.com. They will never charge you item fees. Just go there right now to sign up and load all your stuff to our server to sell. This is not an auction site. Sell your car, sell your home. Realtor, sign up now. Just use our resources along with Skype and videos, then add your creativity to sell your items quickly and with no fees. Go right now to buysellmakeoffer.com and sign up. The excitement is building. I've signed up to sell my stuff with buysellmakeoffer.com. You should too. buysellmakeoffer.com.
This is Holly Thomas, Group Vice President of Cause Marketing for Macy's. Our company is working together with the March of Dimes through March for Babies to raise money and awareness about the serious problem of premature birth in the U.S. That's why Macy's is committed to raising funds through our employees, customers, family, and friends to improve the health of moms and babies everywhere. Won't you please join us in March for Babies? Start a team today at marchforbabies.org.
This is Kurt Sotheby, author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
With Gene and Chris and Phyllis Budinger, we're looking at nuts and bolts UFO research. So let me ask you, Phyllis, we've covered a number of cases here: Betty Hill's dress, Delphos, Kansas, things that you've analyzed. Is there anything anywhere that gives us any real clues as to the origins of UFOs?
The origins, your guess is as good as mine. I lean toward the dimensional one because of the craft that I saw go disappear. But I think it could be both extraterrestrial and dimensional. It could be. But I have yet to see any isotopic ratio differences for extraterrestrial, but I've only looked at limited samples, very limited. And I just need more data to put it all together. You got to find the pattern, and I haven't found anything yet. The only thing I've ever seen was these glowing effects, which indicates something about the propulsion system. We just need more data, a lot more data.
Well, I think after all these years, is there a reason you think why we don't have that data? I mean, even if we start UFOs in 1947, which of course is not where it would generally start, why is it that way?
I suppose a lot of this stuff has not been properly analyzed. Because I don't know of anybody that did a really great job of it in the past. I can remember reading about some techniques that were done on some samples in the past that were totally preposterous to use that. Why would you use something that you put through a chromatographic column that was not soluble in something, or why would you send a sample to a doctor, an MD? That happened a number of times. They think a doctor, because he's a doctor, knows all about analysis of materials, or it was sent to the wrong people.
He's got lots of fancy gear, He's got lots of fancy gadgets.
Yeah. So I think that the people that have been analyzing this, some people were very good, but it has never been archived. I haven't seen much data in the literature. Some have. I think the angel hair stuff, a lot of work was done on that. That was reliable. Well, at first I didn't think so, but I found out that a lot of it that comes in is mostly spider web. And you can see that just by a microscope because it has little droplets on it and sometimes eggs. But
yeah, but real angel hair usually disappears. I mean, it dissolves away.
And I had one case like that. Most of the stuff, about all the stuff I ever saw was spider hair. But I had one case where it wasn't the typical spider hair, angel hair. It sort of dissolved, and it was a foamy material, and it did dissolve and went away, and before I could do much work on it. So it was a problem, but I did find it was a natural products. We did some, I had a friend of mine do with this a method called GCMS, and he also Headspace GCMS to look at the vapors and stuff. And it was a lot of natural products, decomposition products from,
right.
I call them amides, I don't know what.
Have you ever heard of a yellowish, kind of slightly oily material that is mostly translucent? Kind of reminds you of a clear orange marmalade type material that's oily and has some bubbles in it. I collected some off actually the neck of my very first field investigation, and I sealed it in a film container and signed my name. It was duct tape closed and all that, and we sent it that day overnight to Denver, and it arrived the next morning. And when John Altshuler opened up the vial, there was nothing in the vial, nothing. And we had collected enough material to put a nice blob on a quarter. So there was, quite a bit of material there. And he did a test on the vial and said not only was the material gone, he said the only thing that had ever been in the container was film. Have you ever heard that? This yellow kind of material? I've heard of it on other few cases.
It's funny you should mention that, because I got a sample from New Hampshire where I think this is an experiencer. There's a lot of high UFO activity in this area, and she sent me a rubber glove, which she found this material, gooey, something like that, outside, and it dissolved the glove. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. And I'm not very far in the analysis, but I've got a lot of spectra on it, but I'm in the process of interpreting it. So it might be something similar to what you had.
She described it similar, as yellow in color and kind of... Yeah,
it's sort of yellowish, and of course the glove is yellow too, but it's a gooey, sticky material. Yeah. And it actually attacked the rubber glove, dissolved it. Well, the area where she touched it. So,
well, if it's the same stuff, it should have burnt into or dissolved the plastic of the film canister, you would think. But you can't assume anything in this realm. No. Well, have you've been interested in these subjects for quite a number of years now, going on 20 years, in terms of being officially involved and doing testing and that sort of thing. Have you got any sort of negativity or blowback from the professional community that, you've been obviously working for 30, 35 years as a professional analytical chemist? Have you had any snitting, or have you had people supporting your work and saying, wow, I wish I had the gumption to do that or whatever? Or do you try to keep everything separate? Do your colleagues know that you're even involved in this?
Oh, yeah, they know. In fact, there's only two that didn't want to follow the topic. Well, they don't believe in the topic, and there's only been a couple that have at least said it to me, but they all ask me all kinds of questions, and in fact, some have even had suggestions for analysis. I haven't had the backlash that bad. I think a lot of them offered to help. I sort of recall an incident that happened. It was after I retired. A friend of mine was working for a large company in the analytical area, and he asked me, he said, could you come over and help us out for a while? And I said, okay, yeah. So I went over there and worked for a couple months. And they had, like most companies, they had project reviews. Everybody has a turn over the year. And some guy asked me, one of the scientists there, he found out, he says, what are you doing with this lab of yours? He found out I had. I says, well, I'm looking at UFO-related material. And he says, if you gave a project review on that, he said, you wouldn't have enough chairs for all the people to come in. We'd have to open the doors.
Oh, no kidding.
That was a comment he made, Wow. And so in fact, some of the people I worked with, after they left our company, the petroleum company, moved out of town, some formed their own testing labs. And in fact, one of the fellows that does he's one of the experts in the field, ICP-MS technique, which he does some of the isotopic ratios. And he's very interested in it. Though he won't discuss his name in public, he's very interested, and he runs anything that I bring over to him. And there's another one that I just contacted the other day on the West Coast, out in your area, actually near the San Diego area, who does certain tests that I need, XRD and so forth.
Let me ask you on the next segment something about that, because I'm curious about one thing with regard to scientific participation. Mm-hmm. We have Phyllis Budinger with Gene and Chris for one more segment. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
By now you know that wireless technology like cell phones do in fact pose dangers to the health and privacy of everyone. Blockit Pocket's wide range of products are unmatched in providing the protection you deserve. No scare tactics, just common sense. BlockitPocket.com offers quality American-made options to alleviate and eliminate these invisible dangers. Learn more at BlockitPocket.com or call 888-315-9618. BlockitPocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
You haven't experienced yogurt until you've tried a Mossy, embodying health and flavor in a true whole milk, green-fed dairy beverage. Every sip pays homage to our old world cows and the ancient culturing methods their milk benefits from. With over 30 probiotics, a Mossy's undeniably nutritious, refined, cultured sensation bolsters your health and awakens your passion for dairy. A Mossy's so good, and you need to try it. Contact your Longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-403-4885. That's 1-800-403-4885. 1-800-403-4885. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop, you save. Get full details in the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't take on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
We have Phyllis Budinger, winner of the 2013 MUFON Ufologist of the Year. Phyllis, okay, so you're in touch with these scientists who are basically working on the QT.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a big problem? We see that there may be a lot of potential scientific interest, but they don't want to be publicly linked to the UFO stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. When I did the Delphos report, for instance, I wanted to acknowledge everybody that contributed to it. The good thing was everybody said, okay, use my name back, But one guy didn't. He says, no, I don't want to be connected to this. And he was about to leave for Argonne, too, the National Laboratory. He says, no, I don't want my name on it. So,
right.
And what the interesting thing is on that, though, I've gone to meetings, and I've had a few people, scientists, come up and ask me if they could run some tests for me if I wanted them to. So, but it's on the QT.
Well, do you think that this I don't know, I guess professional reticence of getting slimed by this subject, do you think that this is slowly changing and that maybe the younger professionals coming up in the scientific community are a little less reticent to be associated with this subject? Or do you think this is just...
I think definitely changing.
It is changing. Good.
Yeah.
Because I would hope this is not a predictable institutional problem.
Yeah. Well, there's more and more sightings, and a lot of this, and you go out like on these programs, like my doctor, he saw a UFO, and they say, maybe we ought to look into this a little bit more, But they don't want to jeopardize their position wherever they're working, and I can understand that. I didn't talk too much about it at work, but they knew I was involved with it, but then again, I wasn't as actively involved. I was reading a lot and that type of thing. So
getting the background work done.
I think it's
you're such a sweetheart too. I enjoyed so much meeting you earlier this fall, and you just have a very kind of effortless way about you, and I don't see how anybody could get mad at you for anything, actually, because you're such a sweetheart. I'm not blowing smoke here. I've been wanting to meet you for a long time, and it was a real pleasure finally meeting you. And I'll tell you, I know where I'm going to go if I have some quality site evidence or trace evidence or something that you would be able to have some fun with. I would be very honored if you would be involved in any sort of analytical process.
I'd love to do it. It's fun. It's really fun work. It's not boring, obviously.
Well, you never know. I mean, gosh, if you come up with a new isotope of some compound or metal or something, you could win the Nobel Prize.
No, I doubt that. But
well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, there's the potential for some amazing scientific breakthroughs. It could be in the very next package coming in from a site investigator. You just don't know. We don't know unless we do the work. Mm-hmm. And my hat's off to you. This has been, again, I don't say this very often, but this has been one of my absolute favorite episodes in the past 7 years of being involved with the show. I really salute you and your courage and, your stick-to-itiveness and be willing to become informed about the subject, number one, and then be creative in how to apply your particular talents and expertise to this conundrum. Anything that we can do here at the Paracast to aid you in that, you just let us know. And, my hat's off to you, Phyllis. You're a real, well, I can't say unsung hero because you won the Investigator of the Year award. So, keep up the good work. And I just hope that you have somebody that you have under your wing, that you've got somebody to help carry on the work too. Once you get to the point where you're not really capable of really doing the work. We're all getting older, and we need to get the young people involved. So this is really important.
Okay.
Now let me ask you as we progress here to a final portion of the show, and that is, all right, you're not doctrinaire about UFO origins. You're trying to be really fair, consider the evidence, take it where it leads. Do you think we'll ever get to an answer? It's been so many decades, and it seems to me as if we really haven't made all that much progress as much work has been done.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll get to an answer. Our spacecraft are up there. We're discovering, and the technology is going rampant. I'm sure it'll come out. But I think whatever this is controlling this. That is, it won't come through government or things like that will come to the people. It's people will become aware that they're not living in a bubble, that there's something out there. And
that presupposes, Phyllis, sorry to cut you short, we don't have much time, we have to keep it short. Okay. That presupposes there's an ET origin, and that's not been proven yet. Do you think the government even has anything more than just more cases rather than any firm evidence as to what's going on?
I think they do. I've talked to a few military personnel, and they have more than they're saying. So they probably have everything analyzed and that, and here I'm in the grassroots trying to figure it out, and they probably could tell me everything and why the rocks were dropped and why the Betty Hill's dress was messed up and all kinds of things. So so anyhow,
you think they know a heck of a lot more than we do. That's why they're probably a heck of a lot more confused.
Yeah, well, that could be. Yeah, it could be. So there's evidence for this. I have some friends and so forth that have told me things. Again, the military. Had a friend here last night who was dealing with someone in the Canadian military. Was telling me things that they knew, and he wanted to. I guess they wanted to keep up with this guy very closely, and he was supposed to tell him everything he found. He had visitors from the military. This guy had visitors from the so-called black men in black, and another strange visitor that he thought could be out of this world. But you hear stories about that so many times. So
wow, we're going to have you back for another episode, talk about these things. Oh.
Well, those I'm not going to go into depth because, you wonder, and I don't know some of these people probably don't want to talk about it.
Do you ever think maybe these people are making up stories just for your benefit?
Some are, and I've caught some of them, but a lot of them aren't, and a lot of them they won't tell anybody else. Normally, especially abductees, they won't tell anybody. But when they find out what I'm in, they'll start telling me stories. I don't pass it on, so they trust me. So,
isn't that what we always hear? Unfortunately, we get that close, some tantalizing tidbit of information is conveyed. We try to follow it through. It just never seems to happen.
Yeah.
Phyllis Budinger, please tell our listeners if they want more information about what you do, you have a site or somewhere we can go?
No, I don't. I try to keep a low profile. That's why. No, I don't have a site. I should do that, though, because I would like to post all the reports on one site, and that should be archived somewhere. John Greenwald has some of it.
Well, how about if we get one of our wonderful family members here at the Paracast to help you out? We have some real good web people.
Well, I could think about that, yeah.
Okay, let me wrap it. Okay, so if you think you can help Phyllis Budinger or you wish to contact her, contact us. On the Paracast, we have those contact us links at theparacast.com and in the forums. Just click on those, send us a message, and if necessary, we'll get you in touch with Phyllis. I want to tell you also that we're on Twitter. You can send us a tweet, too. Look for the Paracast on Twitter. Look for 2 official Paracast fan clubs on Facebook. Look to our other radio show after the Paracast, which is exclusively available if you subscribe to the Paracast Plus. We offer the Paracast Plus with After the Paracast. We offer this radio show, better quality audio without the network ads for those who don't want to fast forward. We have show transcripts, videos. We're going to put up classic episodes real soon now. I have the first batch to upload. More to come. To find out more, go to plus.theparacast.com. Just use that web address, plus.theparacast.com. Phyllis Budinger, thank you for joining us this week on the Paracast.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in the Paracast.